Hey guys, how's it going? It's your buddy, Jake Dominguez. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm back with another movie review. I cannot believe I'm here reviewing Star Wars The Last Jedi. If you have seen even one of my videos before, you know that I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to see this movie. And you guys know what a huge Star Wars fan I am. I mean, I did videos when I did trailer reactions to the first two trailers. My reaction to the first trailer for Star Wars The Last Jedi almost has 1,000 views at the time I'm recording this, which is insane. I'm really not that interesting, so who knows how that happened. But you guys know that I love Star Wars if you've seen one of my videos. Star Wars to me is not just like my favorite movie series, my favorite movies and all that. It's what inspired me to really get into filmmaking and storytelling and that sort of thing. Star Wars goes beyond just a movie for me. As a kid growing up who really had a lot of trouble making friends and talking to people and stuff like that, I could count on Star Wars. You know what I mean? That sounds kind of corny, but it's true. These movies have always been there for me. I would do all my book reports on Star Wars books. I would spend hours, making stories and, talking theories and stuff with my dad and my little brothers. I can go on, but I love Star Wars. These movies are so important to me. And I loved Star Wars The Force Awakens so much. I remember sitting in a Burger King near my house on the day it was announced that Lucasfilm was being sold to Disney and that they were making new films. I still remember that, and I remember I literally texted everyone on my phone. My mom, my brothers, my friends, my grandma, my aunts, like everyone I knew. I texted, they're making new Star Wars movies, they're making new Star Wars movies. I mean, this is big, guys. This has been my most anticipated movie of the year, my most anticipated film of the past 2 years. After Force Awakens, on opening night when I saw that movie, my very first thought was, I want to see the next one right away. And a few days ago, I went to the very first show opening night, and I saw Star Wars The Last Jedi. As of now, I've seen the film twice. I have my ticket right here to see it again for a third time tomorrow morning. And I wanted to not make this video right away because I needed some time to think about the movie. I needed some time to process it. I didn't want to just be like, I'm a huge fan, so naturally I'm just going to fanboy over it. You know what I mean? So I wanted some time to think about the film itself. I'm also a huge fan of the writer and director of this movie, Rian Johnson. If you've been watching this, my channel, I've done a few videos where I've reviewed his entire filmography before seeing the Star Wars The Last Jedi. I'm making this review. I reviewed Brick, I reviewed The Brothers Bloom, and I reviewed Looper. I love Rian Johnson. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. A lot of his collaborators, like his cinematographer Steve Yedlin, came to work on Star Wars The Last Jedi. His producer Ram Bergman came to work on it. Has a couple cameos from his, group of actors that he likes to use. I'm such a big fan of him. So this movie was important for me to see, guys. And I'm already taking up so much time building this up, but man, I can't believe I'm actually reviewing this movie. And I gotta say, boy, spoiler free, by the way, this movie, I wanted to wait a few days and see the film at least twice to make a review of it, so I can process it. I'm still not done processing. I have not been able to stop thinking about this movie ever since I saw it. I've talked to tons of people who have the same exact reaction. This is a movie that has stayed with me. Beyond the fact that it's a Star Wars movie, you know what I mean? This is an overwhelming movie. If I had a word to describe Star Wars The Last Jedi, it's that. It's overwhelming. Now, Star Wars The Last Jedi takes place right after Star Wars The Force Awakens starts off. You have Rey going to meet Luke Skywalker in order to get his help to stop the First Order from continuing to take over the galaxy from being evil and to help the Resistance take them down. And that's all I'm going to say. All your favorite characters are back, And I'm just going to say this movie's awesome. I loved it. In case you haven't told. This is an incredible film. And I'm not just saying that as a Star Wars fan. There are tons of Star Wars things and movies that I don't love. You know what I mean? Remember last year when Rogue One, A Star Wars Story came out? Good movie, right? I own it, right? I own it on Blu-ray. And I saw it twice in the theater. And I liked that film, but I didn't love it as much as others did. Now, if you love it, go ahead loving it. That's awesome. For me, I enjoyed it. I really liked it. It's a fun movie. It gave us some great Star Wars moments. But I had some issues of Rogue One that prevented me from loving it. You know what I mean? I recently completed the first season of Star Wars Rebels. Got a lot of requests to watch that show, and eventually I'm going to do a review on it. And I liked it. You know, it's a fun show. It's definitely aimed at children, but I liked it, but I didn't love it. Star Wars The Last Jedi I genuinely loved. This is a great film. Everything you want in a movie is in this film. A great story, great characters I love so much. It's so great to see Rey, Finn, Poe, and BB-8 back, along with these old characters that we love like Leia and Luke. Oh, love these characters. Love them. And it has comedy. It has amazing action. The best action sequences I've seen all year. Hands down. It has great adventure. It has an emotionally driven story. This is an emotionally, overwhelming movie. I had major feels watching this movie. There was so much going on. I'm like, oh man, it really, no spoilers, but it's like, there's tons of great character moments in this movie that really brought the emotions out for me. I might as well get straight ahead of it. I cried watching this movie. No kidding. The third act of this film, I'm so excited to do my spoiler-filled review of this. It'll probably be an hour long, but oh well, I'm excited to do that, because I'm going to do a review of this movie that's full of spoilers. I pretty much was crying on and off during the whole last third act of this movie. I'm not kidding. Now, I'm a fan of these characters. I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't know if it'll be the same for you, but man, things get heavy in this movie. And I just really loved it. And I'm not just fanboying here. This is actually a really interesting film. It's a very well-made film. It is entertaining as all out. It's everything you want in a movie. All together, this is what movies are for. It's so fun and so entertaining. It is also one of the most brave and original, interesting blockbusters I've seen in a long time. It's right up there with War for the Planet of the Apes, which came out earlier this year, or something like Mad Max Fury Road, that movie right there. Or in terms of, this isn't just a great blockbuster movie. This is a great film with subtext and all that stuff in it. You know what I mean? Star Wars The Last Jedi has some more interesting themes and subtext in it than pretty much any other blockbuster. And I don't want to go too much into that. But this is a film about our heroes failing. It's a movie about the flaws that our heroes and that the people we admire have. This movie gets into some stuff about that is so incredibly powerful. This gets into themes of hope and having hope in a place where there is no hope. This movie gets into how we think of the past. And that's what really got me with this movie. It's about how we connect to the past and the legends of the past and all of that. And we look back on it and how that can hurt us in the end. And how we need to leave the past in the past, but also use it as a way to gain hope in order to go into the future. I don't know, that sounds all kind of corny. The movie says it a lot better than I do. But that's basically what it is. And I'll talk more about that in my spoiler-filled review, but that was so emotionally moving for me. This is a brave film that takes some big risks. Some of those risks may not work for everyone. This movie is kind of a deconstruction of Star Wars itself. Star Wars The Force Awakens, which was a great film, I loved it, but a lot of people gave that film criticism for basically being kind of a remake of A New Hope Episode 4 again. Right, the droid has up the plans, they gotta go to the Death Star, or in this case, Starkiller Base. It's the same story, right? I could go on more about that, but I'll say that for another day. The Last Jedi is not just a remake. It's not just a retread of The Empire Strikes Back. It is definitely Empire Strikes Back influenced. Our characters are kind of on different journeys in this film, just like Empire Strikes Back did. Excuse me. There's a lot of the same themes of our characters failing and, that sort of thing. But overall, it's not a retread of it at all. In fact, Rian Johnson makes it so that the things that we expect to happen as based in other Star Wars movies don't go the way we plan them. The main thing that had been in all the trailers, pretty much, for this movie, and all the TV spots, has been Luke's line, "This is not going to go the way you think." Yeah, this isn't going to go the way you think. During this movie, I basically had no idea what was going on the whole time. You know what I mean? When you watch enough movies, you can watch and be like, okay, this character's going to do that, and they're going to have that scene, and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You could figure it out. During this movie, there were multiple times, especially in the third act, of the whole movie, really, where characters made decisions that I did not expect. And I love that, and I appreciate that. And there's some story decisions made in this movie that I was definitely taken aback at first. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't, oh. But here's the thing. I do think some of that was done on purpose in order to just kind of mess around with kind of like what we expect, which is interesting because they were making this movie before The Force Awakens came out. Rian Johnson was working on the screenplay before The Force Awakens even came out. So it's interesting how that works. But it all feels grounded. It all feels like the natural progression of the story. You may not like the changes, and from what I can tell, some people aren't really satisfied. I'm meaning like hardcore fans aren't satisfied with some of the decisions that were made. Again, I'll talk about that in the spoiler review. But you can't argue that it isn't earned, in my opinion. Every decision that is made in this movie feels like the progression of that to there. It's character motivation and what that leads, and it leads to a really powerful message. I don't know, that's just me, and who knows. I'm still getting over the newness of this movie. It's possible that as time goes on and I return to it, maybe I'll see, I don't know, maybe it won't work as well for me. I don't know. But I gotta say, after seeing this film this 2 times for now, and really pondering on it, this film has stuck with me. And emotionally moved me. And it has some things in it that actually meant a lot for me personally. There are things in this movie that I've always wanted to see in a Star Wars film. I've seen each of the Star Wars movies, especially the original trilogy, so many times. I've seen The Force Awakens like over a dozen times, okay? And there were things in this movie that I've always wanted to see, and even more things that I didn't even think about, that I didn't know that I wanted, but I got it. Star Wars The Last Jedi is an emotionally powerful movie. It's an incredibly entertaining movie. It's really funny. It has the best action scenes I've seen in a movie this year, including the best lightsaber fights I've ever seen. I think, well, I could already see some people may be a little turned off or confused or by some of the decisions that goes on in this movie, where we learn in these characters, and we'd be like, oh man, that wasn't what I was expecting at all. But I've heard from so many people who had that initial reaction, who saw the film again, or when they started to think about it, they changed their opinions, myself included. I had a much better second screening, even though I already knew I watched a great film. And when it comes to a blockbuster, especially something like Star Wars, which is the blockbuster, how great is it that a movie like this can encourage debate and, having actually make you think about it? You can't get that from other movies where you just forget about it 5 minutes after you see it. That is awesome. Star Wars The Last Jedi is a really wonderful movie. It's a great Star Wars movie. It's really what I wanted. It's what I wanted to see these characters that I love so much do. I'm going to talk more about it in the spoiler-filled review, more about my thoughts, but man, just a great movie. Great cast. This is Mark Hamill's best performance he's ever done. It's an excellent performance as Luke Skywalker. Daisy Ridley is perfect as Rey. She's really become one of my favorite actresses. Poe Dameron, as played by Oscar Isaac, is the coolest guy in the world. John Boyega is excellent and funny and so likable as Finn. We get a few new characters, including Rose, played by Kelly Marie Tran. I really liked her. I thought she was so cute, and I loved her storyline. It was just really good. I liked that character and her arc in the movie with Now this is hard. And I want to talk more about this in the spoiler review. I keep on mentioning that, sorry, not to sound like a broken record. But this really is a movie you don't want to experience for yourself. But as we all know, about a year ago, the actress who played General Leia Organa, Carrie Fisher, passed away. Incredibly sad. The very first video I ever recorded on this channel was a video detailing my thoughts on the passing of Carrie Fisher and how hard it was for me. Like, she really was kind of a hero for me growing up. She was such an excellent writer, and obviously I loved her as Princess Leia, which these movies are so important to me. And such a great person, such a great actress. She has some wonderful moments in this movie, though. It probably is her best performance as Leia. And she is really wonderful. There's some moments in the movie that really means a lot if you're a fan of her and of the character in general. Oh, man, it's hard to talk about, but this is a great swan song for her character. And it's interesting because they didn't change the movie. And this isn't a spoiler. This has been openly said by the filmmakers and Disney like a year ago before this movie came out. But they didn't change Leia's story in this movie. And it's sad because I'm not sure how they're going to figure that out when they make episode 9, but I'll talk more about that in the spoiler film review. They'll figure it out, but for now, really loved how they used her character in this movie. As far as flaws in Star Wars The Last Jedi, there is a lot going on. It's about a 2.5-hour movie full of goodness. And it's almost maybe a little too much goodness. This movie is like going to a giant meal. And everything tastes so incredibly good. You're stuffing yourself up with how delicious all the food is. But by the end of it, you do feel kind of stuffed. This is a weird metaphor, but say out with me here. Like, it's like, oh man, that's a lot. In fact, because this movie, you could argue, again, I'll talk more about it in my spoiler review, but there's definitely a lot going on. And you almost need to think about it in order to get how everything kind of comes together. I mean, not like that it's confusing or anything, but there is a lot of movie here. Again, 2.5 hours long. You probably could have cut this here or there and that sort of thing. It does get a little bit sluggish with the pacing in the middle, but then it fixes itself up right away. And it's the kind of meal that even though you're stuffed, you still want to go back for seconds right again. Because this is just a wonderful movie. I loved it. Rian Johnson is going to make a brand new Star Wars trilogy, actually, after these movies. They're going to make a brand new trilogy of new characters and everything, and I'm so glad they got this writer-director to do it. Because he's extraordinarily talented, and he definitely understands Star Wars. I loved this movie. This is going to be one of those movies that I'm not going to stop thinking about for a while. I cannot wait to see it again tomorrow morning. I'm going to give Star Wars The Last Jedi an A. Oh, yes, this movie was awesome. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I love these characters. I love Star Wars. Disney, Lucasfilm. I'm perfectly okay with you just making Star Wars movies to the end of time. Bring them on. I'm fine. If they're all this good, bring it on. Guys, those are my thoughts on Star Wars The Last Jedi. Let me know what you thought of this film down in the comments section below. Remember to keep it spoiler-free now. I mean, just in case anyone hasn't seen the movie. The movie's been out for a few days, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. But be mindful of that if you don't mind me asking. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help my channel. And thank you so much for watching this video. It means the world to me. Thank you, guys. You are the best. And never forget, I'm your friend. I'm always going to be there for you. Thank you so much for being my friends. May the Force be with you, and I will see you next time.